Thanks for checking out this horror debate series video. So if you don't know how this works, I'm going to make it quick. You watch my video, you get my pick for the most satisfying death in a horror film. Then you watch Friendly Neighborhood Uncle Pete's channel, which is linked in my description, video with the same name. And then you can come back to my channel after that, and you can go to the community tab and vote for who you think argued their film or their pick the best. Or whatever criteria you want. There's also a tie option if you want to have it go that way, because a lot of people like that. But please do us a favor, subscribe to both our channels if you haven't already. We're putting in a lot of work doing stuff like this. We're also putting out a good amount of videos. Hit the thumbs up if you want to encourage other people to find this video. And also hit the notification bell button if you want to see when we're both putting up videos, which we're doing a good amount. So anyway, now to my pick for the most satisfying death in a horror movie has to be from the film Green Room. And that is the man right there himself in the middle, Patrick Stewart's character of Darcy from Green Room. First of all, if you're watching this and you have not seen Green Room, this is a must watch. This is a severely underrated film if you like horror films, especially horror films that are very, very like feel true to life. The premise of it is basically a punk band that's kind of hard up. They end up taking a gig at a place that they find out is like a neo-Nazi hangout bar. They cause a little bit of issues. They walk into a situation where they find a dead body and know who had done it. And then the people of the establishment, headed up by Darcy, played by Patrick Stewart, are trying to cover things up. And then things get very messy and there's horror involved and people end up getting killed. And yeah, it's a very intense film. It's done by A24, so you know it's good. But I'm just trying to sell this. If you have not seen this, definitely see it. Because the other thing is, if you're going to listen to the rest of this video, it ruins a big thing. I mean, it obviously ruins the fact that, you know, he ends up getting his. But I'll also talk about how. So, anyway, this film, phenomenal. Patrick Stewart does an amazing job. When I was first going to see it, or when I was first going to watch it on my own at home, I was like, I don't know how I feel about Patrick Stewart as a bad guy, because he's always been like a nice guy. He looks like a nice guy. He seems like a nice guy. He's got that persona. But he does such an amazing job of making the character of Darcy a terrible, disgusting, despicable human being that you want him to get his by the end of the film. And I'll kind of touch on some reasons as to why this is such a satisfying death when it happens. Darcy not only orders so many despicable things to be done since he's the head of these neo-Nazis, but he does it with absolutely no feeling and no remorse. At no point does he second-guess what he's doing. At no point does he seem to care about any human beings involved, including a situation where he needs to set up, someone actually does get a call out to the police, and the police are going to show up, so he orchestrates this situation where he wants it to look like, oh no, it was just something else going on, you know, some people getting rowdy at the bar. So he literally has two of his underlings stab each other. And that's messed up. Like, to come up with something like that, you could have even have come up with something like, oh, you know, we have a kid who's underage here drinking, or, you know, someone was groping someone. You know what I mean? Like, there's other things, but for him to go directly to like, hey, you know, at least one of you's got to get stabbed right now so that we have a legitimate reason for them to be showing up, and then they can go away and not know what's really going on. So messed up, so dark, so disgusting. It just shows that he has no feeling, he has no remorse, and at no point during the film does he show that. He is remorseful for nothing. He does not care about what he's doing. He just wants to maintain power and maintain money. And the other thing is, a lot of this stuff he doesn't even do himself. He orders other people to do the most horrific things. He's the worst type of person. Well, first of all, he's a neo-Nazi, so that's one of the worst types of people on the planet, if not considered to be the worst. But then on top of that, he's also just making other people do his bidding, like he won't even do it himself. The next point is there are so many obstacles to get to Darcy by the main characters played by Imogen Poots and Anton Yelchin. Rest in peace, Anton Yelchin. That's terrible. There's so many obstacles, for them to get to him that it's really hard to see how they're going to make it happen. So it does end up being very surprising that they're actually able to get there. And you just have this feeling for a lot of the film that, like, yes, getting back or at some of these neo-Nazis is definitely possible and will happen throughout the course of the film, but it's a real question mark whether or not Darcy will end up getting his. So it's even more satisfying. You may see my cat showing up a little bit. It's even more satisfying when he actually gets it. My next point, he is a neo-Nazi. Literally the embodiment of evil on the face of Earth. Nazis, neo-Nazis, evil people. Just by association, they are very evil. That's a pretty well-known thing. It's a pretty easily thought thing. Everyone understands that Nazis are terrible. So just the fact that they create this movie the way they do, which I do feel like you can kind of overdo it with that stuff. It does seem like an easy grab to be like, oh, this person's a Nazi. So, you know, immediately without knowing who they are or seeing the character, people hate them, you know, and I understand that. So it is kind of like an easy grab, but I do think that they executed that in a really good way within the film, and it really makes sense for the story, and the story does make sense, and it is an interesting story on top of that. And like I said, this film is so intense, and it's vastly underrated. The look on Darcy's face when he realizes that his plans are ruined at this point, and it's over for him, shows his surprise and his fear. So as horrible as he's been, and as much as you want him to get his, you get that satisfaction, or the first part of the satisfaction, when Imogen Poots and Anton Yelchin's characters sneak up on him while he's setting up this fake scenario to make it look like all of the bandmates were killed because they were trespassing on his property. So he's orchestrating this with other people, and then they're going to put all the bodies there. They already had put some, and then they were planning on killing the other two people. But he's caught unawares, and he sees this, and you see that, and Patrick Stewart does a phenomenal job with his acting. You see on his face just like this surprise and a little bit of fear, and just knowing this is in. This is the end. This is it. And for someone who you see no remorse from, you see no feelings from throughout the entire film, really, for you to finally get those emotions from him, very satisfying leading up, especially leading up to what happens. Then, when he knows that the jig is up, he turns his back like a coward and gets gunned down. Now, he eventually does turn around because he does pull out a pistol. He is trying to kind of fight back to a degree, but initially he just turns without saying anything and just starts slowly walking away as he, you know, has his pistol out. So he's getting shot in the back, and then he turns, and I believe he's getting shot in the back, and then he turns and poof, one right to the head as he's trying to make his shot. But like a coward, he starts kind of walking away. Although that was probably a part of his plan to be like, oh, just make it seem like I'm accepting death, but I'm not really going to. I'm just going to spin around and try and shoot him. But he gets his. He makes his last attempt to get away with things. But there's two of them. You know, how can he at that point? Because everyone else has been neutralized. The last point I want to make is he spent the whole movie calling the shots and acting like a stoic, tough guy. But in the end, you see his true colors when he has no lackeys to do his bidding anymore. Literally everyone around him, anyone who could come to his aid, cannot come to his aid. Or in the instance of one character, will not come to his aid at that point. And it's literally everything has crumbled. He realizes that everything is gone. Everything has crumbled around him. And everything he had done in this situation was wrong. It led to this point, and it made it so that everything crumbled around him. And now he's going to pay the ultimate price, which is losing his life. He only cared before about power and money. He obviously was going to lose that, because when you lose your life, you got none of that. So, yeah. Anyway, all those reasons is why the death of Darcy in Green Room is my pick for the most satisfying death in a horror movie. And again, I cannot recommend this film enough if you haven't seen it. It's so phenomenal. Anyway, go ahead and put your comments down there under the, well, in the comments area. Sorry. And let me know, what did you think was the best death? Or the most satisfying death in a horror film? Or just the best death, honestly. If you want to take a different direction, go ahead and let me know. Also, all the stuff I said about liking, subscribing, all that jazz. But thanks so much for taking part in this stuff, participating in this. We really appreciate it. We'd like to read the comments and hear other people's picks for these things. But yeah, thank you for checking this out. And until next time, keep it brutal.